pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. But let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we're slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there. It's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen. It invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war takes more than you're willing to lose.
Real men don't hide in the shadows of shame. We step up and we protect what's ours. We fight for our wives and kids, our own hearts. Twitter isn't just an app. It's a weapon. It's a tool used to break free and start living like the man that you're meant to be. The battle's here and it starts with you. You can stop living in shame and you can break free today.
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrison?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems. What? I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the John Age Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the Anomic Age, and I am your host, John Age. Happy to be back with you once again in the not-so-wee hours of the PM. But by the time you hear it, I will be taking you into the dark side of the AM, so fear not. Please check out anomicage.com if you've not already done so. Like all the likes. Subscribe to all the subscriptions. PayPal.me/anomicage. Patreon.com/Anomic Age as well. If you are so inclined, free iPhone app, free Android app, subscribe by email link, free newsletter. It's all right there at anomicage.com. So make sure you check that out. I'm going to try to cut things a little brief today because we got so much to talk to. I'm excited to talk to our guest, Heidi Hollis. A phenomenal CV. I couldn't even possibly give you an intro to cover all of it. But in case you missed it, folks, Heidi Hollis is the person that coined the name Shadow People and the Hat Man. You got your website on the screen right now, HeidiHollis.com. Frequent guest and contributor to Coast AM. A ridiculous amount of books. I couldn't even get into all of them. Also at her HeidiHollis.com. She's got comic books. She's got Hat Man. She's got Shadow People. She's got books about Jesus and the faith. It's amazing, folks. We're really excited to have Heidi Hollis with us today here in the Anomic Age. Heidi, how are you?
I'm doing good, John. Thank you so much for having me come on. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So much to get into. I guess we could kind of start at the beginning, as I always like to say, you know, how'd you get into this? Before we do, I got to say, you know, I was reading your work and just kind of getting getting in the deep end of the pool, as I like to say in so much of this stuff. And I love the coast to coast. I'm going to give my age away for sure, but a huge Art Bell fan myself.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I would tape Coast to Coast. I'm a night owl in general, so I'm always up, but I would tape Coast to Coast on the cassette. You know, I had a cassette on a timer. I'd tape it, and then I'd listen to it on the way to school.
Oh, that's amazing!
Hilarious, but. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, it's an iconic show. It's the show that started all the interest in the world. So it always shocks me when people say, "What's Coast to Coast AM?" I'm like, well, you could thank them for making it cool to talk about these topics, because I mean, even on X-Files, I mean, Art Bell was on there. I mean, he helped inspire that, you know. So yeah, Coast to Coast AM has been in the top 10 radio shows for decades now. With millions upon millions of listeners. And, you know, I was that nerd too. I was like listening all the time in the crack of dawn, you know, just having a good old time. And then being in college and writing my first book on the shadow people called The Secret War. And then getting the invitation, you know, to go on the program, I was dying because I knew, you know, what is it, 20 million, 22 million were listening at the same time. And I'm like, and you're up at midnight and you're doing the show until 4 a.m. or whatever. And you're just like, yeah. So it's been a pleasure and an honor. Ever since that one time I went on, people kept requesting, put that gal back on, you know? So, and then to work for them, I mean, come on, just pinch me.
That's insane. I don't know how. I would totally be geeking out. You know, I'm not like that too often, but it's like coast to coast. I'm like, this is hallowed ground of the great Art Bell.
Honestly, every time I'm going on there too, I get nervous. And people are like, why would you get nervous? I'm like, do you understand? Do you understand the impact on who these people are? I mean, every single time. So I don't take it for granted. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy to have you on the show because it's such a turn from the kind of stuff I've been talking about, but I get so bored sadly now with like the conspiracy and the deep like all this stuff. I'm just like, all right, I'm so black pilled. I just don't even want to talk about it anymore. So I'm so happy to have you on because I feel like I'm getting back to my true love. I mean, when I was a kid, it was like, oh, I love Scooby-Doo. And then just getting into the Leonard Nimoy show. I can't remember what it was called, but
oh, I know what you're speaking of. Yeah.
It's not From Beyond, but it's yeah. I can't recall, but that sort of stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm so excited to talk to somebody again that's interested in some of this same stuff. I love this stuff, you know. Not the same way that you kind of got into this, but to start with that, how did you become interested in some of this? I know some of the listeners probably have no idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of us that are deep in this and, the old G's, it started from personal experience. I grew up in a haunted house. I didn't know what I was experiencing, and myself and my siblings were absolutely terrified and freaked out about what was going on. It was something that, everybody's like trying to get into haunted houses. Hello, no, thank you. It was horrifying, and especially when you're a child and your folks are acting like, oh, you kids are overreacting, only to find out years later, my dad was terrified.
Really?
Was absolutely terrified. He's like, well, if I told you kids how scared I was, you guys wouldn't have been able to handle it. He said, do you know what happened to me? We're like, Dad, are you kidding us?
No way. So your dad experienced the same stuff.
Yes, he did. I mean, it was just mental. His was horrible. I mean, he got like something opened up his bedroom door, got in the bed, paralyzed him. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, so yeah, so it made sense why my dad built a brand new house where nobody had ever lived. So we could get rid of that. But when we moved there, it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And it's, nothing was really threatening out there. I would be walking back and forth all around, and I'd seen strange lights in the sky that seemed to follow me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, aliens are real, Then I go to college, more stuff happens there. And while I was in college is how I came to understand what shadow people are and what the Hat Man is. And, it was a daring thing to write a book in college, as I did, the Secret War book, and on 2 topics nobody had ever heard of before. It was just something like, if you named your stuffed animal a certain name, I was seeing something, and I called them shadow people, and it just it just stuck. And people don't always recall where it came from. I'm like, well, look at the trademarks and the copyright. That's if you're in question, it's like, oh no, you weren't the first. I'm like, I wrote the book in '97. Yeah, I did. So it's kind of wild, but yeah, so that's how I got started.
Yeah, I love the title, The Secret War, because kind of as I was show prepping for this, I was thinking this would be such a departure, and then it was really not, because I was thinking, it really is this whole good versus evil dichotomy that we keep bumping into, whether it's this normal world or the supernatural. And I think there's so much to that with just these different entities. I mean, people are like shadow people and demons and ghosts and aliens and this whole ball of wax. But at the end of the day, I think it really is kind of this secret war going on that most people don't want to know. Or maybe they get a little bit too down that rabbit hole and they're like, I can't handle what this stuff is.
It almost seems that way. A lot of people can't handle it. And let me tell you, I got a lot of static for talking about this way back then. Because, don't bring that religious topic in with aliens. What? I'm sharing my experience. A lot of people seem to think like, do you know this is brand new, that we're talking about angels and demons when it comes to aliens? I'm like, hello? This is not new. This is, I guess when people figure if they find it in their social media feed, like brand new, everybody. No, this has been a long time coming. And I wasn't the first either. I've heard of so many, there's books called UFOs in the Bible that are so old. I'm like, come on now. But yeah, what happened to myself now, when I wrote the book, The Secret War, I had a UFO group. The paranormal conversation kind of hijacked the shadow people conversation, but that's not where it started. I had a UFO group for 15 years that met in a public library in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so people just trickle on in there. I'm like, doors open, come on in. And I'd have typically about 50 people coming, sometimes more, and we had some really juicy conversations. I used to pack as many of my friends as I could into my van and go conference to conference. And nobody invited me to go to those conferences, but when it was open mic time, I started talking. Shadow people this, and, this is what's going on with the alien conversation. But to back it up a little bit about the shadow people, if you want to dive right on into how I came across those beings. While I was in college, I was staying at a friend's house, and the broad daylight, I saw something in my peripheral vision that jumped from a tree to a bush, and my friend's just walking and talking. I'm like, what the heck did I just see? This is this big shadowy mass. We arrive to our destination, we go to turn back, and it follows us all the way back. And by that time, I was just beside myself. I'm like, okay, come on now. And I drew what I call the head and shoulder shadow being for my friend. And I'm like, look, I don't know what I just saw, because I know what ghosts look like. I've experienced that, but I didn't know what I was looking at. And I go and show it to her, and I'm thinking she's going to start laughing. And, and I'll show people what they kind of look like. It's that guy right there, where it kind of looks like a big hulking man with its head directly connected to its shoulders with glowing red eyes. And, I'm thinking my friend's going to start laughing. She goes, oh, not that thing again. Dad, look who's back. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And he goes, not him again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this, okay. So I had to go upstairs to grab something where I was staying at her family's home. And when I went to leave, that thing blocked my way out of the bedroom. And I don't even know how to describe that fear. I mean, this thing, 8 feet tall, I don't know, it was 10 feet. It was huge, hulking over me. And I knew if I stayed there any longer, I was going to pass out. So I'm like, how am I going to get out of this room? It's blocking my way. So I just closed my eyes, started saying a prayer, and walked slowly through this thing. The fear it's horrific. But that started like this contagion element that I didn't know at the time. But I started having nightmares of like these shadow spiders that look like that right there. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if there were like thousands of tiny little ones or like big, giant, massive, shadowy spiders that would take up my whole bedroom at night. And I'd wake up, so you're having a nightmare of seeing these things, and you open your eyes and they're in the room. I'm like, what is going on? I'd get up and look for a broom or whatever it is to try to kill it. And it was horrible. So I just started calling them all shadow people because they seem to be shape-shifting. I didn't know what I was experiencing, but I'd seen several UFO-like type things, and I wanted to start a UFO group, and that's what I did soon after that. But again, didn't know what I was dealing with, but there's so much to say. It's like so much to get into, but it's like that was my introduction to the topic.
Wow. Do you think this encounter that you had with the roommate, like, do you think it got onto you, so to speak? I mean, I know you already had the hauntings before that, but was this was like the first shadow person thing? So do you think it sort of glommed onto you?
It was. One thing that I've learned about these beings since that time is that if they see that you can see them, especially the shadow beings themselves, they might crowd you and try to get you to wish you weren't seeing them. So it's almost like pointing you out and saying, this one can see us. Let's terrify this person into being oppressed and isolated, because nobody's going to believe them. But then there's also these things that typically run off really quickly too, like to try to make you think, oh, I just saw something, But yeah, so they have these two faces, I guess you could say, when it comes to the shadowy beings themselves. Hat Man is a whole other beast. So a whole other beast, but yeah, that's a pattern with the shadow beings. Like you'll hear these stories of it happening that way.
That's so weird.
Yeah, but we could go right on into like, man, how it came to be that I got an understanding of what these things were, because there was no book, there was no website, there was no nothing out there that said, by the way, this is how you deal with these things. Hey, I'm experiencing this over here. There was nothing like that, I was experiencing this. I got a college roommate eventually, and she was very religious. She was Pentecostal, the type that don't cut their hair. They wear the big skirts and I told her, I said, look, I've got some weird stuff that goes on in my place. And she goes, well, your demons won't touch me. Oh, okay. They're just demons. All right. But I was an art major at the time, and she was as well. So I thought it would be cool. Oh, cool. We'll be artsy roommates, And so she moves in, and I wasn't just seeing shadow beings. I was seeing these half transparent, like, beings too, because I had joined a UFO group because I had UFOs that were not little just dots in the sky, but craft that would drop down out of the sky, and I didn't know why that was happening. Big massive craft, and I'm like, I wanted to join a group of people that had seen such things. I'd never been abducted. I didn't have any missing time, but I joined this group. And these people were all alien abductees. They formed this group from their counselor, their psychologist or something. Mm-hmm. All these people had PTSD. They didn't know why. They get hypnotically regressed, and then they find out that they were having alien abductions. This wasn't this wonderful thing everybody was looking forward to have happening as they do today. These people were sleeping with guns and knives under their beds and pillows. And, I don't know, I think she was just a certified a counselor. I don't think she was a psychologist. But yeah, so, and I joined because I've seen big crafts, and for some reason they're answering me. Yeah, so that's not a new phenomena either, guys. That happens to people. But so I joined this group. My college roommate, her name is Samantha. She's very religious. Don't talk to me about your weird stuff. All my friends were like that in college. It was just like, sure, we'll talk about if we could poke fun of you. That was the typical. So my roommate, she was going to a different college, and she called me one day. And she was in an absolute panic. And she's Puerto Rican. And I don't speak Spanish. And she's talking really fast, like, something's in my classroom. And I'm like, what? And she's just bawling her eyes out. I'm like, do you need me to come pick you up? Are you okay? And long story short, we meet up a little bit later. And she starts to tell me, we're like parked by Lake Michigan in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so what happened? Why were you calling me in such a panic? She goes, Heidi, I went driving through downtown Milwaukee to her college in broad daylight, just like, and this sparkling see-through being jumped on the hood of my car and shoved its head through the windshield. Oh, man. And I was like, what? I'm like, hold on, I'm an alien person. I've never heard of a creature like this, and I still haven't. And I said, well, how'd you not freak out and have an accident? And she goes, well, that's just it. It had a really calming feel to it. And right away I was relaxed, and it started communicating with me. And because I was so relaxed, I just automatically felt like I can ask this being questions. It started telling her it was no mistake that you were learning about the Native Americans in your class. We wanted you to understand that they would dance until exhaustion to be able to communicate with us. Mm-hmm. And just like all of this information is going between her and this being, and I'm going, what? And then, and she's like, and I'm like, this is crazy. And she goes, she said that this being told her it was there to introduce who's to come. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? And she goes, I don't know. Heidi, I need to meditate. I'm like, meditate? I didn't know this is something she did, and we're sitting there. She's telling me the coolest story of her entire life. And she wants to meditate? I'm like, what do I get out of the car and let her meditate? I'm like, wow. I don't understand. And she closes her eyes for just a moment. And I'm like, and this voice comes out of her. And it's a reduced accent. She had a speech impediment and a very heavy Spanish accent. And she goes, hello, I've been waiting to speak to you for a very long time. Oh, man. I was like, Samantha? Oh, no, this is not Samantha. Okay. Like, what is going on here? And by the way, something I missed saying. She said that when she was asking this being questions, she said, hey, when you go to the dentist's office and your mouth gets numb? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, so my mouth went numb, and it started flopping up and down, and my own voice was answering my questions. Whoa. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I'm not, I don't know what to think about that. So when she starts talking, and I mean, again, Pentecostal, pick on me or call me a devil worshiper person, and so she starts saying this, and I'm like, I said, okay, Samantha, she goes, oh, Samantha's not here. I'm like, well, then who is this? And they're like, I'm what you would call an alien being. And I'm like, oh, okay. Where are you? I'm kind of being a stinker, like, okay, sure, she's messing with me, and then I said, okay. I said, and they said, well, I'm in a ship very high up. I was like, well, bring your ship down, Oh, we cannot any longer because your governments know how to shoot us out of the sky. And I was like, okay. I said, well, if that's the case, and as I'm sitting there thinking, this being offers up out of nowhere. I apologize. I don't know why my computer is doing this. device is needing to be turned off. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
Reminded me to do the same thing. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know why it did that. That's so odd because it's not on. But anyways, so this being goes to offer something up. It's like, oh, we're too high up, you know. I'm like, oh, and we can't come down because the government is going to, shoot us out of the sky. And it said, oh, but I think I'm close enough to be able to project an image of myself. Oh, what? What did you say? And just then the car starts like vibrating almost, and this hum. And I'm like, what is going on, you know? And right between us, and I always get goosebumps when I think about this being manifested. And I'm like, I pinned myself up against the side of the door. I'm like, oh, okay, I see you. See you. And this very small being formed that kind of looked like a small child, like a toddler size, and pinkish, fleshish color, smooth, more rounded features than like a gray alien being. And as I was just, essentially saying, okay, that's enough, type of thing, it faded away. And I'm like, oh my, this is not a joke. And this being started talking about things about DNA and how, just a whole bunch of things. And it's just a whole big conversation. And my friend comes forward, right? And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that this just happened. And, and here I was part of this UFO group, these people that have been abducted, and I'd seen them be hypnotically regressed, several of them. And I saw on 2 occasions where the person, when they were in the presence of these beings, recounting it, instead of like discussing what it is that they're experiencing, the being spoke through them and said, we're doing this, we're doing that. The being came through the person. So I'd seen this before, and I'd known of a couple of people that this had happened to on a regular basis. And one that thought that she was just going crazy and went to a psychologist to say, I'm crazy, right? And the psychologist said, oh, no, you're not. This is really happening. So there's so many different layers to this. So when people say, oh, that's channeling, my friend would never say it's channeling, because she's like, look, I always meditated, and there just so happened to be a being there waiting. I didn't know what to say. But long story short, because I know time is of the essence, we go back to our apartment, and we're, of course, freaking out, like, what on earth? I said, I saw the thing. It was real. And so she's like, doesn't like reading English, but she grabs several of my alien books, wants to try to, understand. And then she goes, I want to talk to your freak friends, from the group. I said, oh, the devil worshippers, So she got on the phone. She's talking to them. She's like, why? Why would they speak through me? So after, the initial like freak out moments, we're college students. So we're like, hold on.
Yeah.
You want to do it again? Yeah, let's see. I asked about lottery numbers. I did all this stuff that you would do as a college student. Yeah. I'm like, tell me the future. And so this being would not answer those questions. It came back. And it didn't show itself again like that. And time after time, we try this again. And this being would constantly say it would not benefit you to know that. And we're like, well, this isn't any fun. Why would you feel like you could get the answers to the universe? I saw the creature. I know it's real. Mm-hmm. And it's not offering anything. The only time it started really giving the real reasons why it was there was when I was reaching, and I shared about a weird dream I had that was so real. I couldn't believe it didn't happen. And I talked about a dream of the moon coming so close to the planet, it looked like it was going to hit us. But then a huge UFO showed up and pulled the moon at an angle so it wouldn't destroy us, right? Mm-hmm. So I shared this weird dream with this being, talking through my friend. And it said, I'm not in charge of dreams, but I'll tell you its meaning. The darkness in your planet was pulling the moon towards the earth. We saw what was happening and we diverted it. And I was like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh, we got an answer. And it said, we call them shadows. You call them shadow people. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning. And that's where this whole like download of information started. I was like, hold on, shadow people. And me throwing like questions and getting actual answers. And it spoke of there being a conflict in alien contact. Mm-hmm. It spoke on how, people wonder, there's grays, there's reptilians, there's mantids, there's Nordics, and there's, all these different types of beings. And nobody knew what was their connection. They did a lot of similar things to people. They abducted, they terrorized, it's not them sitting down having a picnic. It was horrible experiences, no kumbaya, no let's meet you halfway. No, they violated people, and they still do. So these beings, as it was explained to me, they were conquered beings. They have been infiltrated by this shadow force. They come from a dark source. Mankind, more positive beings, they come from a light source. And, you hear of psychics say, source told me this, source told me that. Well, this is what I think they were referring to. And the beings also discussed, I'm like, well, shoot, these things are terrorizing me, these shadowy spiders, these shadow head and shoulder looking shadow things. And I'm like, what do? I am sick of them. You wake up, they're in your room, you're trying to beat them down with a broom. And they actually gave an answer I would have never anticipated. Again, I'm in college. I was raised Methodist, which is like what you go to a camp and somebody just happens to mention Jesus. It's really laid back form of religion, Methodist. So, and I had experienced so many things in my face where it seemed more real to me than this dusty old book. So I had seen angelic beings. I had seen aliens. I had seen, experienced a lot of odd stuff. So that was more real to me. So I stopped praying. I believed in God, but I thought Jesus was this old historic figure that was supposed to come back one day. But, that's about it. God, say your prayers in his name. It was more memory than heart. And this being said to me, why have you stopped praying? I said, I know this thing is not human. Why is it asking, saying this about how would it know I stopped praying? Mm-hmm. And it said, do you know Jesus Christ is who he says he is? We work for him. God is real. And the only way to defeat this darkness, these shadow beings, these negative alien abducting types, is in his name. So I was like, oh, wow, I just don't even know how to tell you how that changed so much, but also it was earth shattering because I had no way of defending myself against these things, and they're like, just say in Jesus' name, leave. I did, and these things left. Wow. I started sharing that with people in the abduction scenario, and they used his name, and the aliens left. I'm like, if these are aliens, why does the name of Jesus scare them? What is that? They told me about how this dark force is actually has infiltrated other places. So like where these certain types of beings come from, the grays come from, they got conquered. They became essentially possessed and controlled by this dark source, this shadow force of beings. And the ones, and they said, now, not all of the beings are infiltrated, but most of them that are coming and actually messing with individuals, those are the darker ones. If they can't stand the name of Jesus Christ, you know who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Because these things can shapeshift and make themselves appear as other things. these negative alien beings and whatnot. So it became this understanding that this was of utmost importance, why these beings came. All this time, we're like, well, nothing works. I can't get lottery numbers. I can't figure out anything from this being. But it starts talking to me about essentially demons and angels. Not new, guys. Demons and angels. But it didn't come in the package I was taught. Like, this is not a angelic with wings. And it never told me it was an angel. I asked it. I said, when it started telling me about matters of the soul and how suffering, if somebody is meant to be brought over to the other side, and say they're being stabbed to death or something, they said they don't just let a person suffer in that. And they said they will remove the soul to bring to God. And I was like, what? Hold on. I was like, are you telling me you guys are angels? And they said, we've been called a lot of things throughout time. And that was just so many things, so many different elements. So it became clear to me that, and through a lot of things that they shared with myself and my college roommate, that this was an ancient old battle. This is something that has been on par for a long time. And they said, this is a secret war. This is a war that's going on even now in the privacy of people's own bedrooms. They fight for their very lives, and then they have to go to work and pretend they didn't, like something try to gut them, something try to assault them, something, where you're having to throw the name of Jesus to get negative aliens and shadow demons off from you. But Hat Man is a whole other level. But I'm sorry, it's a big chunk of a story, but had to get it out.
Man, there's so much I want to throw out there with this conversation, but I got to put bookmarks on some of these things. But when you were talking, I couldn't help but just think, like, all these different cultures all over the world seem to have very similar encounters. If you look at, like, the Mayans and the Aztecs with Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl, and then obvious, like, ayahuasca use and hallucinogenics. And because you mentioned that about the Great Lakes Native American cultures doing drum rituals and dances to get to these altered states. And then I was even thinking of Aleister Crowley with encounters with what he termed as LAM, L-A-M, with some sort of very gray-looking entity with the big oval head and the little slit mouth and big eyes, that sort of thing. So it really does just seem like all this stuff, like Solomon, nothing new under the sun. It's just sort of just changes or variations that we keep seeing. Like they had the Nordics in the 1950s, and then it changed or morphed or shape-shifted into the aliens of the 80s and beyond. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it is. And it's so so multi-layered, but I think sometimes people, when they're in the midst of trying to figure this stuff all out, I think sometimes they get lost in the details. Especially when I get people who are suffering at the hands of some of these things. They're like, I think it comes from, I believe I'm like, dude, are you getting like violated at nighttime? Do you just want to get rid of them? Use these words and be done. They also told me personally, I think it's amazing to learn about the history of all of this stuff too. I mean, of course, it's all over the Bible, the battle between good and evil and how, things happen. But they told me there are people for that. My purpose was to stay in the present and to focus on what's happening today, because they told me things are going to come to a level of so much happening out there in the world when it comes to the shadow people and Hat Man. They said, you're going to see this increase. You're going to see this, you're going to see that. And they said, things are going to change when you see a new color being discovered. And what has been discovered? There's a freaking new color. I said, oh my gosh, there goes another one, Now, and at the time when I wrote that book, nobody's talking about experiences like this. Shadow people happen, nothing. So I'm like, what? You mean other people have seen this thing besides me and my one friend who dealt with it as a kid? I'm like, what? I'm like, come on. And the day I got on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, and I shared shadow people. Boom, thousands of emails from around the world. And I had AOL at the time. AOL, I don't know if people know this, but if you didn't save the email when it came in, it disappeared. I was getting thousands. I couldn't save them fast enough. They're like, delete, 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 delete. I'm like, and the emails have never stopped. So it's been a shocking experience. It's been a sad experience too, because there's a lot of terrible things happening out there. People who are trying to do things as far as like conjure these things, I am the shadow people expert. They say, oh, I know everything. There's nothing to fear with these things. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's why I trademarked them. People are like, why would you trademark something like, I said, well, why did Stan Lee trademark Spider-Man if it's being abused, Not that the abuse isn't still ongoing, and others stepping in the forefront, because this is funny because, and I bring this up often, for a reason, being a lady in this field, especially back then, being a lady, it's a little off-white as well. I've had extra static. And these television programs are like, oh, wow, you know so much. But we can't have a lady lead on this topic. Can you teach a guy everything you know to come on? What? No, I can't. But then you'll see on these shows, if I'm talking about shadow people, boom, here's a guy talking, using my words I just said in the pre-record. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I can't believe this. So, so it's, and they're putting out the wrong message. And it's like, nothing to fear. This is okay. This is how you contact them. People have died with their weird challenges I won't even name on different social media. And then they go look up, well, who started this? And they look at me. Wow, you've killed people. No, I didn't do that. So there's a lot of abuses, and there are cults surrounded around it, like the Hat Man especially. And I'm like, do you know who he is? Do you know who the Hat Man is? Because it's not the shadow beings. When I first came out and introduced Hat Man, I called him Hat Man's Shadow. He's it's the image that is, all over the world, essentially been snatched off. There he is. That's the famous drawing, the original drawing that you see everybody is like putting on everything. That's from my college roommate. Way back, she drew that. So when I first put him out there, I call him the Hat Man Shadow. I thought he was another form that shadow people took because I hadn't experienced him. My college roommate did. But people don't understand, and I didn't get it then either, that he wasn't a shadow. He could step out from the shadows. He could sit back in the shadows and come out of it. The shadow beings can't do that. He is the one in charge of all the other shadow beings. He's in charge and has been seen alongside of alien beings, all of them, the old hag, and these beings that you see here. He's been seen with the Grim Reaper looking guy. There's another form of him right there where he'll wear like a top hat with a cape. And then there's the hooded guy right there. That's actually an alien. But yeah, he's seen right alongside all of them, commanding all of them. He is the guy in charge. And if you ask him who he is, which I don't recommend, he'll tell you he's the devil himself. He will tell you that. And if you catch him, guess who's not running? He doesn't usually run. He wants you to get a good look at him. And he'll smile for you. Those nice jagged teeth that are on Pennywise. He loves people to know who he is because he wants to have that respectful fear. And when he shows up, you've got really big problems because he can be really difficult to get rid of if he's coming around regularly. But there's a way to get rid of him. And I don't hold that back either. I don't sit there and go, pay $45.99. It's free on my website. you go to hatmanhelp.com or HeidiHollis.com and hit the help tab and scroll down, and I have all of the information. But for people who don't know how to do it. I did a comic book as well like that to show the process on how to bless your home to keep him at bay.
Mm-hmm.
So
this might be kind of weird, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm gonna borrow an Art Bell term, the quickening, because if you look at the year 2000, everybody was all, oh, Y2K is going to destroy and blah blah blah, and then you look at 2012, oh, Mayan calendar, we're all doomed, blah blah blah. But I wonder, and I think the technology really works in conjunction with this. If some real veils didn't get lowered or lifted during all that, because I swear it seems to be like since 2000, it's been this gradual progression of fear everything, from 9/11 to, good grief, the COVID mess and everything else in between. It's like, what's the drama du jour today? Like the whole internet seems to be like fear porn. There's the latest thing. Watch out for the asteroid. Watch out for the train. Watch out for the storm.
Right.
And I mean, the Bible allegedly says, I haven't counted each time, that the phrase most often mentioned is fear not, do not fear. But I swear it seems like since 2000, we've been conditioned through sort of this trauma-based mind control of buildings blowing up, people getting shot, twisters and hurricanes. And I wonder if that's not part of the plan, so to speak. Yeah. And then if a lot of these entities, I'll borrow another phrase from the punk band, the Circle Jerks, are just casualty vampires. Are they just sort of like sucking in all that negative energy and sort of using that to raise some sort of underworld stuff, kind of like you were talking, the secret war that we're just kind of whistling past the graveyard. No, everything's great. We've got our job and cup of coffee and the lawn. But then in reality, if these things are just kind of bubbling up to the surface a little bit.
I think everybody's kind of getting this sense of there's something coming. There's something happening. And I'll tell you the honest truth that I know it's a time of change. Mm-hmm. I've known since I was probably 5-6 years old, learning about the book of Revelation and crying myself to sleep when my dad's like, what are you crying about? What's going on? I'm like, I learned about Revelations. And he's like, oh, don't worry about that. That's going to be way in the future. And I said, no, Dad, I'm going to be here during that time. And I'll just never forget the look on his face, like, what? And it was just a deep knowing, right? Mm-hmm. But then, but that's just, that's kid stuff. But then when I was in college, I don't know what tripped this or triggered this, but I got all of my memories back before I was born. And it's nothing I've ever experienced before, nothing since. And I put it in several of my books because it changed everything for me. And I remember, you hear people say, oh, I chose my parents. I remember that, near-death experience, not near-death, but they come here with those memories. I chose you, Mommy. I didn't have that. And I remember agreeing to come here during this time where things were going to start changing. And it was the equivalent of forgetting my first name is Heidi. It was like, what am I doing? I'm like, I'm a student in school to become a therapist? Mm-hmm. This is crazy, and I went to drop out of school, but I didn't. I'm a therapist, and all this stuff, and I started my UFO group right then. It was just like, boom, boom, boom. And I've been on task ever since. Like, there's no time. So I'm always, if there's one thing I repeat to people, it's like, the time is short. And I'm not a psychic. I'm not a guru. I'm not a know-it-all. All I know is this part. I was supposed to tell people about these beings, why they're here, what they're doing, how to recognize them, how to protect yourself, and to get ready for the onslaught that's going to come in a large number. And another part of this so-called task, I guess you could say, has been revealed in the past several years, and I'm going to be speaking about that soon with a new book. And it's an angle I never have taken on before, and I think is honestly bigger than the Shadow People Hat Man topic. But there is a progression, and it's interesting that you feel it too. You see the signs, and people seem so freaking anxious for it sometimes. Like, oh yeah, buddy, it's over now. I'm like, I said, do you realize how many people we're going to lose, and how many? And I'm Christian, I'm like, do you realize a lot of people are going to like lose their souls? Like, I don't know if people understand the MO of what Hat Man does. Hat Man, very physical guy, will wait for you to wake up so you can see his wonderful grin, sit on your bed or whatever it is, shake you awake, or help cause you a wonderful car accident, something wonderful like that, or just harass you. He's awful. And just when, and paralyze you, and when you're feeling like you can't breathe or you're going to die, you're so terrified looking into his face, and he has no personal space rules. And he's like an inch from your nose, and he's threatening what he's going to do to you, because he loves to talk. And when you're like, oh, just kill me already, I can't take this anymore. Oh, you gave him permission. And so he takes his fist and he punches it through your chest and yanks your soul out, laughing the whole time, and tries to drag you off. And these are only the stories of the people that survived this, okay? And he'll abuse you in every single way imaginable. I don't care if you're a little kid to a grown man. He will do whatever. And I don't even want to go into those details. Just to get you to that point. I've had people thrown across a yard and beat to shreds by him. Children who are, this is how, this gives me chills. This is how disgusting he is. For somebody that's in a baby crib, I don't know how people have memories like that, but I had somebody that was in a baby crib, was crying as a baby. Hat Man came and looked over his crib, blocked the door from his mother from coming in to help calm the baby. And with one glance, when this baby saw Hat Man, knew that if I continued crying, he was going to kill me if I didn't shut up. A baby got that message. He has encouraged children to harm themselves to their end. He's that disgusting, evil piece of crap that you've heard about for centuries. This is him. And people are like, is there only one? Like, there's a head. There is one guy. But he's anointed others, too. There are others wearing the hat now, too. So it's as bad as you can imagine. This is not something that you want to encourage. So this is not fun. This is not cute. This is not to go and sell a book. You need to get rid of him, because there's another part. If you're having, and this is taught to me by the being that came through my friend and through other experiences too, but certain details and rules of Hat Man Shadow People that I got way back in 96 and wrote the book in 97 still stay true to this day. If this was all just in my head and my friend's head, why has this worked? But if you are experiencing alien abductions, if you're experiencing Shadow People Hat Man on a consistent basis, if you happen to die during this time, they grab your soul on the way back to the other side. So you need to stop the infiltration while you're still alive. But it doesn't mean that while you're crossing, you can't call out to God. You can. But they do their best to grab you. And if you pay attention, there are several alien abductees who talk about near-death experiences, and the freaking beings that have been abducting them pull them on the craft. So they didn't see the heavenly gates, And I don't want people to think that they're coming because they're a rotten person. No. Guess who they target the most? Sure, you could be Aleister Crowley and conjure this crap. You could welcome it to come to you, of course. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. It's the person who's artistic, who likes to draw, do music, they're a little bit more observant about their surroundings, and will see these things moving between their surroundings more than the next person. And they see that you can see them. Oh, it's on now, because those people are evolving. So we are evolving. We are changing. We're able to see the differences a little bit clearer than we did prior. I mean, we got a little dumbed down or something, but now we're waking up again. And so when they're able to see that you're spotting them, they want to oppress and possess you and limit your abilities. So when I hear somebody that's like, every single night, Heidi, they're coming, I'm like, ooh, who are you? Because I want to know what's made them so terrified that they got to keep going at you, and the people don't realize, like, what? That makes me special, that I got demons? It sure does. It sure does. Your light is so bright that you're attracting all of the bugs in the neighborhood. Think about that. This is the pattern, so.
I think that's why they go after children so often. And I kind of wonder, like I mentioned before, like everything seems so fouled up sometimes, where you've got you used to have like these isolated Skid Row areas in a couple of major cities. And now it's like any metropolitan area, there's this huge people with mental disorders, people just medicated to death on narcotics, and just this whole almost like Avenue of the Dead. Is that some sort of like mass sacrifice that's going on, kind of like the Aztecs or the Romans or the Greeks? Or is it just maybe people that have kind of had these various experiences like you're talking about? They don't know how to deal with it. They're not that light that knows, like, oh, okay. They see what's going on. They're going, holy cow, I got something going on in the night. I got taken away. I got probed and this, that, and the other. And they're like, I can't deal with this. Let me take whatever it takes to make the pain elusively go away for a minute. I don't know.
I am a big believer of that. As an occupational therapist, I've worked with a lot of patients who have Googled me. Oh, you know what I'm seeing. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, man. It's like, why am I here? And you're the one that wrote the books on these things. I'm like, oh, gosh, So I do believe that's the case, that these people, who would want to see them all the time?
I can't imagine wanting to see this mess.
Right. It's like they're in your face. They're laughing. They're clawing at you. I've known people that have written me, and this is a horrible pattern too. Hat Man's threatening them, threatening. And they're trying to have a sane life, got to go to work, got to go help the kids and pay the bills and all this stuff. And he's threatening you. Next thing you know, you wake up in the hospital, you're strapped down, and they said you tried to kill yourself. You're like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And when they wake up, guess who their first guest is? Freaking Hat Man. This is literally, it gives me chills. Probably like 5 different people. He leans over the bed smiling and goes, I was this close to having you. And he disappears.
Jeez.
And that person who didn't have mental illness before gets diagnosed. Right there. You're risk to yourself. And he did it. They're like, I'm assuming he possessed me. I would have never. I mean, come on. How is this possible? But he's doing it. And those are the ones that survived. So we're in the battle. We are in the battle of all battles. And yes, from my understanding, this battle is going to move to a bigger, more visible battle. But it is going on right now in the privacy of our own homes as we're being laughed at. Oh, you didn't see that. Oh, the aliens are not real. And then to think, these are possessed beings, these so-called aliens, they're possessed. We believe in possession. Horror movies are like top dollar at the theater. We know this stuff can happen. We have priests that are like, hey, they levitated. They had emergency meetings at the Vatican to ordain more priests that can exorcise all these demons out of people. You know why? Because the shadow beings are here. And as I was told and taught from these other beings, this is just the next place in line for them. They're slowly working from the inside out So if a person gets fully possessed, fully taken over, they continue to do the work. Like they're that person that sparked a riot in a crowd that was, peacefully protesting. Mm-hmm. They're the person that just happened to overdose that patient in the hospital that killed them. It's stuff like that. It's the silent workings, and they may not even be aware. Look at the people who attempted suicide and are like, I wouldn't do that, So we've got to figure our faith out. This rumor of God, of Christ, that we all set our calendars to was a big freaking deal. It's like, I have friends that are Jewish and Muslim. I'm like, what, they're like, oh, that Jesus guy. I'm like, what's the date again? Oh, since the year of our Lord, huh? I'd say he was a big freaking deal. The world took note, and we still do.
Absolutely. I got to talk about the technology angle just a little bit. And I got to tell you, my daughter was so excited that I was talking to you because, and I completely have to say the same thing as your dad. I've nowhere near those sort of experiences, but I'll relay this kind of short story.
Sure.
My daughter and I love to go, especially in the summer. We call them night rides. We'll get on the bikes and ride, the neighborhood at late at night, which is, most people are like, that's insane. I'm like, no, there's no cars on the road. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But we were doing that one night and kind of circling back and coming back to our house. And I'd say we're maybe like 50 yards from a light pole. It's like a bright light. And I always say it's funny the weird things you remember and the things you forget. But I remember there was a mailbox. And we're 50 yards coming in. And I'd already seen, and we both saw, like, people walking their dogs, and you do the obligatory, hey, how's it going, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on the light pole, and I see what looks like a person and a dog. And, we're just going a steady pace, not fast, not slow, and we keep getting closer and closer. And I'm like, okay, it's just a person. And then we get maybe, I don't even know, like 30 yards, 20 yards away, and it walks like in front of the mailbox, and I see like the legs kind of do that movement, and it blocks out the light, goes in front of the mailbox, and I'm like, okay, here we are at the spot, in a matter of seconds, and I was ready to say, hey, how's it going, like I'd already done. Nobody there. It just looked like a shadow walk in front of that veil of light. And I was like, what? Because I was really, my heart, I was like about to say, hey, how's it going? And I looked in the driveway, nobody in the driveway. Looked in the car, and there wasn't like the dome light in the car or anything. The side door, the front door, nobody.
Wow.
And I just kind of let it sit there for a minute. And my daughter and I kind of get in, and I'm like, did you happen to see, I didn't want to say, did you see this crazy? I was like, did you happen to see? And she's like, yeah. And then they weren't there. And I was like, yeah. What the world's going on?
That's crazy.
But I say that because there was that street light there, and I can't place whether or not they had changed it already or not, but I know that it used to be the regular incandescent bulb, and then one day they changed it to the LED bulbs, which I also did a little researching and figured out they also have a 5G transmitter in those nice LED bulbs so that they can spray the 5G everywhere and I guess monitor everyone. And I was trying to figure out if it was before or after the 5G bulb in there. And I was,
wow.
Anyway, I say all that to say this. I wonder kind of what role the technology plays, because I've heard, the same sort of things where it's the LED lights, and I happen to have this all the time where we'll be riding somewhere and the street lights will go off and then they'll come on. They'll go off and they'll come on. So I'm like, I wonder if there's an element that actually does play into the technology. I wonder if it's, they're sucking in the fear, but they're maybe also sucking in some of this newfangled technology that we seem to be putting everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you're onto something, because the more recent theories I've heard is in regards to Palantir, Peter Thiel's. We're going to move to 6G. I have got to say, ever since we left 4G, my phone has never worked really well. I don't get my texts. I don't get my calls. Oh, it's going to work great. It still hasn't. So my phone didn't need to be any faster than it is. So it's not honest what they're doing. And the 6G is coming. I just saw, some presidential conversation with all these different investors in technologies to move 6G. And I'm like, why do we need that? And a gentleman that does some kind of consulting for groups like that said what they're planning to do, because they think that they're putting chips in all of our food, our water, not just, injections of different types. It's everywhere. And when they go to 6G, your own thoughts won't be your own. Like, they will be able to, that people are randomly getting Havana syndrome all over the country. How's that possible? They're testing it. He said they are test subjects, and they're seeing if it works. And I watched some little brief thing with somebody lecturing to some college students that just had this dish that they pointed at the kids in the classroom, and they're like, I'm going to play some music and only you'll be able to hear it. And they're like, oh my gosh, so they're able to do it. And they're saying that do not allow for the 6G, because that's the next level. It's going to trigger all of these chips in all of our food and inside of all of us. And the Savannah syndrome has been leaving holes in people's brains. I mean, these people are absolutely debilitated. They can't hear things properly because there's voices, there's music, there's sounds, there's it's horrific stuff. But who's behind it? So yeah, I think you're onto something, that they'll be able to make us hear, see, think. I also heard that there's a patent with certain AirPods that they're able to measure our brainwaves when you put them in your ears. So yeah, there's a patent. So why would they want that? Why would they want to have that assimilating thing and mapping things without our knowing? That's not okay. So I think definitely there's something behind all of that. And diabolical, absolutely diabolical. You were speaking about lamb. Was that it for?
Yeah, that was Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
Entity.
So this is so bizarre. So like about 5 years ago, one of my friends sent me this image of this. Somebody had created a bust, a clay bust of this. A ceramic bust of this creature. And I looked at it, I said, oh my gosh, who did this perfect rendition of Hat Man? My friend didn't explain to me why she sent this to me. She goes, are you kidding me right now, Heidi? I'm like, no, this is Hat Man. And she goes, Heidi, Rudolf Steiner did that 100 years ago. Oh, who's Rudolf Steiner? She's like, how do you not know who's Rudolf Steiner? I'm like, I'm busy. I don't know who Rudolf Steiner is. And she goes, anthroposophy. And I'm like, I don't get it. Theosophy, whatever. And she goes, that is Ahriman. I didn't know who that was either. And I was like, I don't get it. And she said, 100 years prior, Rudolf Steiner said Ahriman would surface and be recognized. And you are 100 years later, and you're telling me that's Hat Man? And I'm like, it is. I have an image of him on my website on the front page of Ahriman and that bust that Rudolf Steiner created 100 years ago. And he is to be this creature in the technology that would be gathering, creating something called an A-sphere. I can't even explain it properly, but this gathering of a consciousness of all of us, kind of like this download of us into this A-sphere. I know I'm saying it wrong, but something along those lines. So the technology, the devil's in the details of it. And it's this Ahriman character, according to Rudolf Steiner. When you think about it, we are wired already. We're in our phones, walking around, going to the bathroom with it. I mean, it's constant. I mean, we are absolutely hooked. And how do you break that when they're going to probably break it up? So I think the technology definitely is connected to us seeing different things. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, John.
I didn't even know about Rudolf Steiner. I mean, I actually heard about him in another interview, but man, so he's the one that's supposedly going to usher us into this sort of Borg hive mentality of
Ahriman,
basically Palantir.
Yeah, Rudolf Steiner was the one that pointed out the warning about this Ahriman character. Ahriman. And I have, if you go to HeidiHollis.com on the first page and scroll all the way down, you'll see the bust that my friend showed me. So that's the original image of what Hat-Man truly looks like, the Hat-Man, the singular. He's not human. It's not human looking at all. So, yeah.
I'm putting him on the screen right now. That's Ahriman there from HeidiHollis.com.
Yeah. It's craziness. So, yeah, this is... yeah, it's like, you want to conjure that guy up? Really? No, thank you. Oh, he can't stand the name of Jesus Christ, but funny, it could tolerate all the other names from religious understandings. You know, it could tolerate that, but that Jesus guy hurts his ears.
I mean, you already mentioned the Palantir connection, which I've covered on here a lot, but I wonder... Really? You know, if you know any more than I do, please fill me in. Like how deep this whole military-industrial complex goes, because we know that they've been doing remote viewing. That's obvious. The MK Ultra, the trauma-based mind control, testing on people, geoengineering. It's almost comical if it weren't so terrible, but.
Right. And you know, this is just a rumor I heard about Palantir. Don't know, but, you know, this is what I've been hearing more about lately. And when you think about how these elite people really look at us as being, you know, worker bees, and they're creating all these wonderful underground bunkers. Elon Musk is boring through the ground, and you're hearing people that work in these underground facilities saying, we have a false sky down there. We raise our own cows. They've got their own food supply. They've got cities. They have so much stuff. Like, they're wanting to break away from this society and create their own. Everybody's thinking, oh, they're going to just want to go to Mars and the moon. Well, rumor has it we've been there for quite some time having a ball, just not allowing us to keep that, you know, or have that. We'll just pay the bill. Go ahead, have fun. You know, I think I had shared with you, my father ran a NORAD station. I don't know if I shared with you that before. No, okay. I don't think so. I didn't know if I sent you a message. But yeah, so he was the guy in charge of a NORAD station. I had no idea. You know, and he had said he tracked things. I would have to say it didn't happen, but very vague. This man didn't speak about much of anything. And so, but I do know that these things are what we've been up to. It's true. We have things that are never going to be revealed. He always did tell me, anything that you're allowed to see as far as our technology is concerned, he's like, at a minimum, it's 20 years old. He said, it is so old. And he dropped hints here and there. Oh, don't speak on the phone too freely. Why, Dad? Since I was a kid. Because everything's being recorded. Well, why is it being... Well, okay, Dad, whatever. So when Edward Snowden came forward, everything's being recorded. I'm like, hold on. Others didn't know that?
Yes.
I was like, how did others not know that? I was told since I was a little kid. So I didn't know who this man was that raised me. But, dude, there's so many different layers. But I want to give you some evidence of predictive programming. Mm-hmm. You've heard of that?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, you hold on to your seat, John. So imagine this. I'm a big fan of, you know, the X-Files, and then they had a spinoff called Millennium, right? And I have to say, allegedly, this whole thing, okay, just to put that out there. So television show, Millennium, it was a spinoff of the X-Files. They focused more on occult-like things, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, while X-Files did aliens and whatnot. So Frank Black, he's the agent over on Millennium. Me and my friends are watching it. And it's the third and final season, just before the Millennium, the year 2000. And I go step in the kitchen, and my friends are like, oh, my God, Heidi, get back in here. There's a lady on television that looks just like you. I'm like, shut up. I sit down, and they call her Agent Hollis.
No way.
We froze. We're like, no, we didn't. We did not just see that. And we're like, hold on. Let's see her badge if it shows up. and it spelled my last name, Hollis. I'm like, Agent Hollis. And she's my doppelganger. I'm like, this is so weird. As the series goes on, she starts talking about her sister, Mel Hollis. Same nickname I gave my sister. I'm like, shut the front door.
What?
Then they introduce her father, James Hollis. That's my dad's name.
Oh,
I'm like, if I wasn't the only brown lady doing what I do, this might be a coincidence. I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, we're on television. He goes, what show? Now, at the time, I didn't know he ran a NORAD station. Mm-hmm. And I tell him, and he just goes, doesn't say anything. So flash forward many years, right? And my dad gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he thought to tell me some things. Worked for NORAD. What? I'm like, oh my God, Dad, the television series Millennium. And he goes, yeah, I don't know how that was allowed to slip. What? What do you mean? And I said, hold on, Dad. I'm like, this is crazier than you can imagine. He's like, why? And I said, my character on the show didn't know her father was military intelligence until he got Alzheimer's.
No way.
And you're telling me right now, because you have Alzheimer's.
Jeez.
It was a full loop. And I got so many goosebumps. But there's so many aspects of that third and final season that reflects on my life, because I had to watch it again after I got confirmation. My dad admitted it was us. And now the weird part is the third season was about the apocalypse. Mm-hmm. And how the government was trying to control the apocalypse through my family. What? How is this possible? And it was 20 years after the show had aired. That's crazy. So anybody could just type in Agent Hollis Millennium TV series, and you'll see my doppelganger. It did her hair the same way I did back then. Looked just like me. It is. And what's even stranger is I got confirmation, let's say from a 3-lettered agency, that certain people involved in creating that series were allowed to see the predictive programming. So why? And it was to essentially let me know something. And it has been just mind-blowing. So have a review. Oh, I'm sorry. Can't watch that series anywhere, though it was a top-rated show. Odd, it's not streaming anywhere? It's not even on Blu-ray. It's on DVD and on some bootleg websites. That's it. Just bootleg websites. I'm like, why? You can find The Lone Gunman. You can find all the others, but not that one. And
The Lone Gunman did the predictive for 9/11, I think. Or wasn't that it?
Oh.
I think so, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised after what I learned. So, yeah, that's it's a lot of stuff that's going on. So you get into all these different topics like that. Have a gander at that one. But I'm saying allegedly, everybody.
Of course.
Though that's my face and my family and my story. Oh, it's just, yeah. And this is newer. I've only spoken about this a couple of times, about the predictive programming, because I didn't know that was a name. I didn't know that was until a 3-lettered agency told me what it was and how that information was let out about myself. What? To who? It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, and I just happen to have named the modern day devil in the world today and his minions. Yeah, that should make anybody's skin crawl, because it made mine. But good times, John.
I didn't know you had encounters with the 3-letter agencies too. That's pretty weird.
Oh, too many. And whether they announce themselves or not. Cults, other agencies, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Ones that like to fly around, satellites. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's religious ones, whatever. Yeah, they always take a look to see what people are up to now. I mean,
I can only think of one for myself. I'll give you that story real quick before we got to go, I guess. But
please,
man, I don't know how much to reveal on air, but you know my backstory a little bit. So I'll say I had an encounter with the MARSOC guy, Marine Special Forces Command. And I got an email randomly from the real day job, and they were like, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you, blah, blah, blah." I was like, okay. And I had just done a class on some of these topics, which I've never been allowed to do again, but that's a side note. Anyway, and I was trying to figure out, like, how did my name get involved in MARSOC, and why does this guy want to meet with me? I had no idea. Later, I think I figured out how this person found me. But anyway, it was the most odd encounter ever. Like, we met in my office, sat there and talked for like 30 or 45 minutes. And then at the end of it, I just kind of left going like, what was this even about? You know, like it gave me no answers. It was just sort of this weird back and forth. I felt like we were both feeling each other out, and it just kind of left in a nothing burger. It was just sort of like, okay, we've talked.
He was feeling you. He was feeling you out. He was feeling you out to see if you'd want to go on payroll to work and put out certain messages.
I think that's exactly what it was, because he mentioned in the conversation that they run these ops that don't violate posse comitatus, where I guess they have fake towns set up and they bring in paid town folk, and something to the effect. And I thought this was funny because, you know, we were talking and I was like, so you're gathering intel? And he was like, oh, no, we're not gathering intel. And I'm like, you're gathering intel.
Yeah.
But basically he wanted me to somehow be involved in how to better train the operatives to gather intel on what was going on with the town people, you know, but basically doing ethnography.
Wow.
In America with the people. I mean, that's kind of what I thought he was trying to get me to be like, oh, can I get him, you know, because he was like, the guy that's training now isn't going to be available anymore and blah, blah, blah. But he was never like, we'd like you to do this. It was just sort of like, he's not going to be available. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
In my head, I was going, but I don't want to do this. Like,
Right. But then if you like outright refuse, will you suddenly have a car accident? So you don't talk about the approach?
It was so bizarre. It was like the most odd conversation I've ever had. It was so weird.
You know, people think that they don't mess with us at that level, but they do. They do a lot. They're always out there, and there's sleeper people too. Like, you could have been approached in college and they're like, if you come across somebody who touches these subjects, we'll pay you $20,000 if you become their friends and let us know at any time in your life. You don't know. You don't know. You know, it's like they groom people. Like, a lot of people got bored during COVID, and suddenly they're the expert in the UFO field, and they got podcasts.
Yeah, I noticed.
And they got followers. Yeah, there's thousands of them. You know, I'm great, everybody. Take a look, you know, because I got these many likes. And then they get groomed real easy because they're brand new and they're so excited and they're young and they're a plant and they're being fed information, and then they get threatened and then they get scared, but they're in the game. It's too late, can't get out. You know, all those compliments and your ego build, and you have these little this is the top one. Secret signal conversation groups. You know, I'm like, do you know how many of those there are? Like, oh yeah. They're like, I'm in these. Would you like to be invited? No, thank you. I've met them in person. It's like they think they're going to get information, but they're being actually drained of the info they gather from their group, from their podcast. It's really sad. The ones that's getting paid is the one that called you, not you.
Probably. So that's what I thought. Like, there's been several points in my life where I've like, this was one of those Rubicon moments where I could have gone in this direction and sold out, quote unquote, to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that just feels disgusting. I don't want to be a part of this mess.
You know what's my favorite is on LinkedIn. I get a lot of DoD contracted space manufacturing people looking at my profile. Why? So you know what I started doing? Friend requesting them. Hello, since you looked at my profile. Hi, nice to meet you. You know, European this and that. I'm like, I mean, come on. Why would they be looking? Like, we develop software for the DoD. Why? Every single month I get tons of them. And what's on my LinkedIn profile?
Yeah.
Aliens, shadow people, you know, come on. And it's never under the search number, you know, names. It's crazy, but it's entertaining. You know, if they want to wipe you off the earth, they can. But I'd rather them just give me a call and say, "What do you need, bud?" you know. So I don't
do
know.
not Gary Webb me. I don't want to end up like 3 gunshots and a suicide or something.
Oh yeah, everybody's suicidal all of a sudden. It's like, God, they just got paid $100,000. I heard of one that got inherited a whole bunch of money and the next day he killed himself. Shut up. Shut up. Just, it's not happening. But, you know, I just think, you know, Hat Man might grab them on their way over to the other side if this is the garbage they're doing to people. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but you're practicing with some really dark stuff. But then also you got to think, are they possessed? You know, whose command are they following? You know, I'm just following orders. I'm like, there comes a moment. Yeah, you gotta, you know, between what's right and what's wrong. So I think that there's a lot to be said about what's happening. And I feel bad for people. And if we're going to wish for the end to come soon, help your neighbor tip their head up and take a look at the world. And it's important. The beings that I worked with the most, they were like, you know, I'm like, what do you want people to know? It's like they need to get their faith right. Mm-hmm. They need to recognize God is real, Christ is real, and there's a battle here, and they're out for your souls. They're feeding on us, and it's like they're causing the illness, they're causing the accidents, or they're there immediately following your accident to try to absorb you. And it's so funny. My friend Nick Redfern, he wrote a book. He didn't even tell me, but the man's written so many books. Nick Redfern, what has he got? 40 plus books. And we're working on a project, a TV series, and I was telling him all about this negative, this and that, and shadow people. And like a year later, he writes this book I didn't know about till more recently called Final Events. And everybody's like, "Oh, Heidi, you gotta read that one." And I did. I'm like, "Now, why didn't Nick call me?" It's talking about the negative alien beings absorbing souls. But there's a government program called the Collins Elite who's aware of now this is a grim story, but how they're essentially have studied and recognized that when that final day comes for us all, when we die and cross over, that these alien beings are absorbing our souls. Like they think that's it. The aliens are winning, and they're demons, and they're absorbing our souls. I take it in a different direction with the shadow beings, but I'm like, dude, I'm like, she could have called me. Just could have called me, Nick. Like, but yeah, the Collins Elite is now a thing and is a known thing that's been investigated by the government to say, why are these beings here and what they're doing? And it's like, just to take our souls. And but we have recourse. We can defeat them. Christ came for this very reason. We don't have to listen to that garbage and just take it lying down. I mean, so that's the big message. This is the battle of all battles. We've been told for centuries. You know, people are like, "Oh, they're not going to release the disclosure files." I'm like, for the UFOs, they're not going to disclose it all. And I'm like, yeah, they don't want to make you feel like your life is not worth living if you're just going to be food for demons. But because they say the Pentagon is the one that's the religious, they think it's all a religious thing and we're screwed. There's something wrong. There's something wrong, but we do have a way to push these things away and make it back home where we came from. But apparently the Pentagon, who's been having a lot of fun with this high tech that they're getting, they don't want to tell us. There's a lot of them that would go to prison for hiding so much too. So there's that. Oh, and killing people to keep it secret. Yeah, that's another one.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's their bread and butter. They got to keep it secret.
Man, it's sad. That's why I try to keep my focus on save the souls. The other stuff, the history, the this, that, it's all interesting. But the only thing that mattered was souls. I was even told by these beings, like, you have abductees suddenly becoming really focused on saving the planet. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that doesn't matter. I said, it doesn't matter. Those are usually the more negative beings that are like, oh, plant trees. And I said, the earth recycles itself. We're not concerned about that to the extent that these beings are. It's the souls that matter. They need to individually get their faith right in God. That's the big message. So, yeah, it's always been this. That's why I have books that kind of encompass this whole thing about spiritual warfare. Like, you know, I've got The Secret War. I got The Hat Man. I got the other F word.com. It's like the book on how to get your faith right without being so hard on yourself. Jesus said you need faith the size of a mustard seed. That is all. That is all. You know, if you can conjure that up, your faith doesn't have to be perfect. You know, just we're flawed. We fall back down, we get back up. As long as you get back up, you're going to be okay and have no doubts about it. So everything is about this. And we're going to be okay if we could just get that little mustard seed to the forefront.
That's true. I love that message. That might be a good spot to leave it today. I swear. I feel like we could talk for another 5 hours here.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do this again and touch on some of these other topics some more, because it's so deep into the pool.
For sure. No, and I appreciate you letting me come on, say hello to your daughter. And thank you so much for having me on. This is great. And if anybody has questions, they can write me at HeidiHollis@gmail or HeidiHollis.com.
That sounds good. And I got HeidiHollis.com on the screen there for you folks. Please go there and check out everything she has. Amazing amount of books and so much more. So check that out, please.
And social media is @1 Heidi Hollis, just a 1 in front of my name. So on most social media. So you can always message me there too.
All right. Well, perfect. Well, if you'll stick around for a minute, I'll say goodbye to you off there and talk for a second.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that was amazing. Hope you took notes. If not, you can go back and check out the video and the audio version of this as well. As I always say, you can't do everything, but you can do something. Please try to get out there, do your part, make a difference, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to the Anomic Age, a John A. Project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to anomicage.com. That's ANOMICAGE.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the Anomic Age.